character to write has to be the naked holy man called Torpeth, and he's been alive far too long, as the gods have punished him for misdeeds in his youth, and he's been kept alive, and he's a naked warrior because he's from a mountain tribe, and there's this whole macho kind of fighting naked fearlessly, etc. And it does, of course, scare the willies out of the enemy. So it has to be, and you know, there's great comedy scenes with Torpeth because he's a pagan, and once he teams up with the minister, who's his traditional enemy, they have huge religious rows, and the minister is very stiff and proper in a high collar, so they're the complete antithesis of each other, and it's just high comedy. Even though it's not intended by either of them, for the reader it's a bit of a laugh, you know.
So, naked, based on anyone you know?
No, it's not autobiographical, it's a character. I don't run around my house or write the book in the nude. I'm not a big world builder. I know some writers plan for months, if not years, and they have maps, like Tolkien, obviously. But no, I mean, the landscapes in my book are as much an emotional and physical as a physical. They're a philosophical landscape. They're not obsessive about position on a piece of paper and where things are in relation to each other, or the number of miles between this place and that. At the same time, you know, it has to be grounded, has to be concrete, but no, the world kind of expands as the philosophical themes expand, then it expands outwards. I mean, we start the book with a little kid at his breakfast table in a little town in the middle of nowhere at the end of the empire, and it kind of, as his personal story grows, then so does the world begin to expand outwards like that, and indeed takes in the entire cosmos by the end. Not specifically, but my first job as a teacher of English was in a tiny town in the Czech Mountains. The entire job interview was in London originally, and there was one question, which is, do you like teaching? I said, yeah, it's all right. Great, they said, you've got the job. And I got packed off in the coach, actually, into the Czech Mountains when it had just come out of communism, and it was minus 27 Celsius for 6 months, 1.5 meters of snow on the ground. I only had t-shirts and a leather jacket. Had a bit more hair back then, but so that kept me warm. But I was staying in an old student dormitory with a broken window. The name of the school was Intercourse. And in Czech, it kind of means interdisciplinary courses, but so the first homework my students got was to go home and look up the primary meaning of intercourse. Anyway, I digress. But that kind of being on the edge of civilization feel, I think, is captured in Empire of the Saviours. It starts as very traditional fantasy. I partly did that to get the book deal, but also partly because I wanted to do something a bit different with fantasy, because, you know, the books are all becoming a bit the same, and, you know, and you pick books up and you're like, have I read this before? I can't remember. It seems to be the same story over and over again, and I just wanted something a bit darker, something a bit more gothic, something that I enjoyed reading as I was writing it, you know. And I think there's a lot more irony and humour in my stuff. And the Gothic tradition, there's a very British version of the Gothic, which is quite distinct from American Gothic, and I feel that it was being expunged from the sorts of fantasy books that I enjoyed, and that the Gothic was being edited out. I mean, I'm slightly fortunate that vampires and demons, etc., 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 have become more fashionable, because I'm now allowed to write that sort of stuff, which is the stuff I enjoy reading and writing most, you know. So my influences: Wizard of Earthsea, you know, the id in Wizard of Earthsea, how that creeps and grows in a psychological landscape, kind of that sort of vibe. I've also borrowed from the feel of Edgar Allan Poe, of the supernatural world intruding and creeping into everyday life just over your shoulder and about to tap you on the shoulder and make you leap 6 feet in the air. If that's the sort of experience you want, then buy my book. And if you really don't like it, really, then I'll buy it back off you. Don't hold me to that though.